YouTube, it's the Casual Cutter, and today's video is going to be a fun one, at least fun for me. Hopefully it's fun for you as well. But over the past week, I checked out two videos on YouTube from other guys, Cleary and Eugene Kwon, and they put together a video of their 5 favorite knives challenge, basically 5 knives that they picked out of their collection that are their favorites. So I don't know about you guys, but when it comes down to picking a favorite of anything, for me anyway, and I think the other guys mentioned this, might have mentioned this too, but it comes down to emotion. You know, it's an emotional thing. When you choose a favorite, it's how it makes you feel, and it's kind of an all-encompassing reaction. So that's how I was able to deduct these 5 knives from my relatively modest collection of about a dozen or so current knives. That's how I chose these ones, and it was a little harder than I thought it would be. Out of these 5 that made the cut, no pun intended, I picked out one other runner-up, which is in my hand right now, and I'll reveal that one at the end of the video, and it was a close one for sure. So if you guys haven't already subscribed to Cleary and Eugene Kwon, definitely go do that now. They're great channels. Kevin's content is always superb, and Eugene has an extremely original concept for his channel. He does dashboard reviews, which I think is freaking awesome. Not sure if anyone else has ever done that before, but I just love his setup, and his videos are fun to watch, and I just love the whole, you know, the whole ambiance of the way he does his reviews. So check those guys out. Be sure to subscribe to their channels as well. And now, in no particular order, let's get into my 5 favorite knives challenge, starting with this Giant Mouse GM5. Okay, so the GM5. From Giant Mouse Knives, this is their 5th release in the GM line. These are limited to 100 special edition units, which are the Pirate Edition. They look a little bit different. They have kind of a black PVD coating, I guess, on the scales and blade. So they're darker than this, and they have bronze hardware instead of blue. But the GM5, I think, is absolutely beautiful, and that's actually what drew me to this knife in the first place. They have this extremely unique milling pattern, these waves on the scales, which I think are just awesome, combined with the blue pivot collar, back spacer, and pocket clip. I just think this knife works, and I think it's just gorgeous. I would even dare to say this is a gentleman's knife, gentleman carry. You know, you get dressed up, you go out on the town, and pack this little guy with you. So this knife designed by Jens Anzo and Jesper Voxnes, and it has Elmax steel on the blade with this high saber grind, almost like a harpoon swedge, which is awesome. And you take a look at the spine, and I just love how it's rounded. Everything's chamfered. Even the jimping there, it's got that forward jimping, like a lot of their knives. And it's just a great knife. It's ergonomic. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. Pockets very well, and just feels good in the hand. It's a perfect size for me. I personally have no preference on size. As long as a knife fits my hand well, it can be a small knife, it can be a large knife. As long as it fits, and this one does. You can see it's got jimping right over the lanyard hole there. Fits in the palm. And just a beautiful knife, guys. This one is definitely one of my favorites. It's one of my keepers for sure. I don't think I'll ever get rid of this thing. You can see it's got the nicely machined pocket clip with a single screw, the Giant Mouse logo there. Blade is completely sterile on this. There's no branding whatsoever, which is always a classy thing for a classy knife. You can just see all the details make this thing just a really nice folder. So the GM5, absolutely one of my favorites and one of my keepers, and this was an easy choice for me. This was actually the first, I would say, higher end knife that I picked up. Over the past year, I really ramped up my folding knife endeavor, and this was my first $300 plus knife that I jumped on. I saw when it was released, I think back in September, and I just had to have it. So beautiful knife, extremely well made, and definitely one of my favorites. So that is the GM5. I'll put that up here. Now number 2, again in no particular order, will be the Koenig Arius. Now if you guys are on Instagram or Facebook, you'll know that this is a popular knife. A lot of people love this thing, and for good reason. It is just a spectacle of manufacturing, and the action on this thing is absurdly sweet. Flies open, drops shut under its own weight. Just really, really well-made knife. I think Eugene had one of these in his top 5, and it's no surprise, guys. I mean, it's a phenomenal knife. This is an earlier model. It has CTS 204P blade steel, titanium scales. This one does not have the lightning pockets that they mill in, so it's a little heftier, but you know what? I like it. And I love this handle shape. It's got the swell. Some people don't like that the knife actually gets thinner at the forward portion of the scale, but I guess I'm a little bit function over form in that aspect because it fits my hand perfectly. I also think this knife has a spectacular blade to handle ratio. You know, the handle is a little bit longer than the blade, but when the knife is open, it fills out the hand perfectly, full 4-finger grip, and then it has, in my opinion, just enough blade to be substantial, but not, you know, a gigantic pocket sword. I also love the finish on this blade, which you can see I just mucked up with my fingerprints. But this version in particular has the hand-rubbed satin finish on it, which I just think sets off the lines perfectly on this this grind here. You can see it's got a bead blasted fuller. Somebody on, I can't remember if it was Instagram or Facebook, actually said that this blade reminds them of a race car. And I have to say, I can see it. This blade shape kind of just looks like it's in motion, even when it's just sitting still. And I personally like that. Some people hate this blade shape, but, you know, like I always say, not every knife is for everyone. So you can just see the contouring, the different grinds up to the spine, those swedges up top, the blade flats. I mean, it's a gorgeous knife. It's got everything. I mean, this is one of those knives where it's total package. You have build quality, you have action, you have a company that stands behind its product. I've never had to use Koenig's warranty department, but I hear great things about it. So this is a knife that, yeah, it's expensive. If you look around, you can get great deals on the secondary market. That's where I picked this up. If you haven't seen my video on knife buying on the secondary market, go back and check that out. But it's just a phenomenal piece of engineering for a higher end production knife. Got that machined pocket clip that screws in from the inside of the scale. So it's just a super clean look. Obviously, this is a titanium frame lock. Deploys with thumb or flipper tab, which I love. I love flippers that also have a secondary deployment method. That's just a pet peeve I have. You can see the logo there is etched deeply into the blade. I think that's actually engraved, not just acid etched, but I could be wrong. But yeah, this is a total package knife, guys. I mean, if you've never handled one of these, definitely try to get on that, because it's a phenomenal knife. I think it's overall, it's probably, I would say, is close to a perfect folding knife for my prerequisites and standards. Got this great backspacer that integrates into a lanyard loop, kind of contours, becomes an extension of the grip. You even have these milled out areas here for your finger to land on the flip, so it's super comfortable. I mean, it's just it's a phenomenal knife. I mean, I can go on for hours about this thing. Nice jimping on the lock bar. I mean, it's just great. So I'm sure you guys have been bombarded with these things on social media, because everybody that has one seems to rant and rave about it. So, for good reason. It's an amazing knife. So, no surprise that this guy made it to my top 5 list. For the third one, let's see. This should come as no surprise. Well, no surprise to me, but it is another giant mouse, and it is the Acebiblio. This knife, I think, is probably, for me anyway, a perfect EDC option. It's on the smaller side. I would say it's, bordering small to the lower end of what I would consider a medium knife, but it is on the smaller side. It's also a flipper, and also has that second deployment method there via thumb hole. Extremely ergonomic design. It's got a nice forward finger choil that you can choke up on. These beautiful micarta scales, which I think make this knife overall. I love how micarta gets dark over time with use. Kind of smooths out a little bit. Still provides great traction. There's a liner lock, of course. It's got these great barrel spacers. I mean, the knife is just, it's just classy. I don't know how else to describe it. To me, I could probably carry just this knife and every day and be perfectly content with its capabilities. M390 blade steel. Again, it's got that rounded off spine with the forward jimping, and that sterile blade, just like the GM5. It only has the Giant Mouse logo and the Ace line. The Ace line from Giant Mouse is their regular production line. It's not limited like the GM5. When these first came out, the micarta version sold like hotcakes, sold out everywhere, and all of a sudden everybody wanted it. And I was in that group. I have to admit, I was in the camp of, I slept on it for a week or so, and when I decided I wanted to buy the micarta version, because it also comes in black G10, and it was actually just, the second run was just re-released with some carbon fiber options as well, so check those out. But the micarta was the one I wanted, and I snoozed and I lost, and I had to go find one on the secondary market, but I was able to, and I'm so happy I did. It's got this wire pocket clip. If wire pocket clips aren't for you, there's not much you can do other than get an aftermarket pocket clip made, but I think it works great. Slides into the pants, disappears. It's just a great knife. I find myself opening it like this a lot, going in for a draw cut, using that forward jimping there. It just works. This is a fantastic knife, and it's definitely one of my favorites. So, and actually on the inside of the liner, I'm not sure if you could see it. Come on. Anyway, there's engraving that says Vox Anso, has the Giant Mouse logo, and then it says Made in Italy M390. So I like how they put the branding on the inside of the liner on this guy, and not all over the blade. I think that was a great, classy move there. So Acebiblio, definitely one of my favorites. And this is a knife where I might actually buy a second one, just in case this one gets lost or badly damaged or whatever, because I carry this thing all the time, and I just love it so much. So, another one of my top 5 favorites. So, this next one, fourth one, is pretty wild, and it is the Something Obscene Company Nemly 2.0. If you follow me on Instagram, you might know I got this back in October. It was actually a birthday gift from my extremely generous girlfriend. And I've always loved the design of the Nemly cleaver, going back to the fixed blade that came out. So this is the version 2.0. This is designed by Felix over at Something Obscene Company and manufactured by We Knives. It's one of his production runs. These are limited to 100 units in 3 finishes. So you can see there CPMS S35VN, 73 out of 100. So they made 100 versions with the black titanium scales and the satin blade. Then they made another 100 that had gray scales with a black blade, and then another 100 that were all blacked out, for a total of 300. But as you can see, it's a flipper. It's super smooth, drop shutty. The action is actually pretty similar to the Arius, to tell you the truth. But everybody knows We Knives does a fantastic job at manufacturing. This one has Damascus pocket clip, which I added. I think it sets off the look. A nice stone-washed backspacer there. And guys, check out the detail on this, if this will focus. The chamfering on the jimping, the lightning bolt, how it's chamfered in. I mean, this thing is full of details. It's extremely well built. And I think the collaboration between Felix and We Knife was perfectly executed on this. Titanium hardware, titanium frame lock. This rides on bearings. And it's just an awesome knife. It's wild. I mean, that's obvious. It's definitely a wild looking knife. It's the furthest from any type of traditional knife that you can get, but I just love it. I love the way it feels in hand. These scales are pretty ergonomic, believe it or not. But yeah, it's just it's a fun knife, and it means a lot to me personally that it was a gift, and I will never ever get rid of this thing. So it made the list. So again, S35VN blade, titanium frame lock. This one has the Damascus pocket clip, which did not come standard. But I mean, every angle of this thing is just like a wild work of art, you know? So it is one of my faves, without a doubt. So now, for the 5th knife, there was actually a runner-up. And it came down to these two, and at the end of the day, I let emotion take over because, you know, that's what we're talking about when we pick favorites. And this knife won over, and that is the Zero Tolerance ZT630, 0630. Mine in particular is outfitted with this micarta scale, and I think it makes the knife. And in my pictures on Instagram and Facebook, this has been a pretty popular knife that people seem to like. And I think that's specifically due to the way it looks with this scale. The 0630 appealed to me because of its blade shape initially when I first saw it. I just love the grind. I love the shape. And I am a pretty big fan every once in a while of a wave feature. Love me some wave. It's particularly good if, one-handed deployment. As soon as you pull it out of your pocket, it snags and it opens the knife. And, some people think that's novelty, but, there are definitely certain situations where it's useful. And this is a big knife, titanium frame lock. It's hefty, it's heavy, it's big. This blade is just under 3 3/4 inches overall. But sometimes I like to carry a big knife. And it definitely feels good, fills out the hand. It's just a beast. So, but as always with ZT, I mean, great fit and finish, consistency, the grinds are perfectly even. I mean, ZT makes a great production knife. There's no doubt about that. I think if you have one, you can agree. So, this is, it was a close one between this and the runner-up. But at the end, this knife, I think, just strikes that emotional chord with me a little bit more. When I carry it, when I have it in hand, I just feel good. And it's got that micarta, which, just like with the Biblio, you can see how much darker the Biblio is because I've had it for so much longer and used it. See how dark? These are the same green canvas micarta, but this scale on the ZT is a lot newer. I've only had it for about 2 or 3 weeks, whereas this Biblio, I've had it for 2 or 3 months. So I'm definitely on a micarta kick myself, and it's just great stuff, guys. And this is a great knife. These are discontinued, but you can still find them on the secondary market if you're into it. I think I might upgrade this pocket clip because it's kind of gross. I don't know. I'm not really that into it, but it does the job. But ZTO 630, just a all-around cool big knife. It's got the black barrel spacers. Look at that chunk I took out of the liner. I dropped this thing last week. Oh well. It's a user. Try to keep them nice, but stuff happens. What are you gonna do? It's a good thing I'll be keeping this thing forever. Fantastic knife. So, we got the ZT 0630, the Nemley 2.0 cleaver, Giant Mouse GM5, Koenig Arius, and the Giant Mouse Acebiblio. These guys are my 5 favorite knives, and all for different reasons, but at the end of the day, they all make me feel just good. Just having them, carrying them, using them, looking at them, flipping them. Now the runner-up, which came in close to this ZT 0630, it was a close call. But at the end of the day, I had to go with the ZT because it just edges this one out ever so slightly. And that is the Spyderco PM2. Now, I had never been a Spyderco fan before this past year. But one day I made the mistake of deciding, hey, let's go see what all the hype is about, and I ordered one. This one in particular has been outfitted with Aramis scales, which I'm sure you've seen all over the interwebs. These are carbon fiber grand line scales, is what he calls them. You can see they're contoured. They're a little bit thicker than factory, which makes this knife feel incredible in the hand. The PM2 has always been an ergonomic knife, but these scales just set it off to a totally different level. So, compression lock, I love. That's definitely one of the things I love about the PM2 and PM3, but that compression lock is just great for one-handed closing. Keeps your fingers out of the way. You know, it's just, you can even use it to open, kind of like an access lock, I guess. But, so the PM2, I mean, you know, it's probably one of the most popular knives in the world for a reason. And once I got one, I realized what that reason was. I do not think this is the prettiest knife. I kind of am not the biggest fan of full flat grinds in terms of looks, but you can't deny that in terms of performance, they are as slicey as it gets. I mean, there's nothing for material to catch on with a full flat grind. And especially the way that Spyderco does them, super thin behind the edge. I mean, this thing just slices through just about anything with ease. So, but, you know, like I said, not the prettiest knife in my opinion, which is why I put these awesome scales on. And I think it definitely looks more attractive to me. But, yeah, I mean, this is just a great working knife. You know, between ergonomics, the full flat grind, the way that it cuts, the compression lock, it's relatively lightweight for the amount of blade and handle material you're getting. I think these scales actually added weight to the knife because they're bigger, but yeah, definitely a runner-up and a major contender in the top 5 knife challenge. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't make me feel the same way as this ZT 0630 does. So it had to get downgraded to runner-up status. But that's it, guys. These are my 5 favorite knives, and the reasons why I like them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions about any of these knives or about anything you saw here today, as always, you can drop into the comments. Ask away. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram at The Casual Cutter. Definitely go check out Eugene and Kevin over on their channels. And thanks for stopping in. Catch you on the next one. Casual Cutter out.